Elena Martinez crouched behind the concrete barrier, her heart hammering against her ribs as bullets whizzed overhead. The abandoned warehouse district had become a battlefield, and her team was pinned down by enemy fire. Through her earpiece, she could hear the desperate voices of her unit calling for backup that might never come. At 28, Elena had already earned a reputation as one of the most skilled marksmen in the military. Her calm demeanor and deadly accuracy had saved countless lives during her 3 tours of duty. But today felt different. The mission had gone sideways from the moment they'd stepped off the transport vehicle. Intelligence had indicated a simple extraction operation. A diplomat's daughter had been kidnapped by a rebel faction operating from this industrial complex. What they hadn't expected was the sophisticated network of snipers and heavy artillery waiting for them. It was clear they had walked into a trap. Elena adjusted her rifle scope and scanned the surrounding buildings. The enemy had positioned themselves strategically across multiple rooftops, creating overlapping fields of fire. Her team of 8 soldiers was outnumbered at least 3 to 1, and their ammunition was running dangerously low. "Reaper, this is command." Her radio crackled to life. Elena's call sign had been earned through years of precise long-distance eliminations. "We need you to identify the primary threat and neutralize it. Our boys can't hold this position much longer." Through her scope, Elena spotted movement in a tower approximately 200 meters away. The distance was extreme even for someone of her caliber. She watched as a figure moved methodically, setting up what appeared to be a heavy sniper rifle. From that position, the enemy sniper would have a clear view of the entire battlefield and could systematically eliminate her entire team. Elena's mind raced through the calculations. Wind speed, humidity, bullet drop, the rotation of the earth itself. All factors that would affect a shot at this incredible distance. She had never attempted anything beyond 2,800 meters in combat conditions. This would push the absolute limits of both her equipment and her skills. "I've got eyes on a high-value target," Elena whispered into her microphone. "Distance is extreme. I need everyone to stay low and keep me covered." She steadied her breathing and began the mental preparation that had become second nature over the years. In her mind, she blocked out the chaos around her. The screaming, the explosions, the constant chatter on the radio. There was only the target, the rifle, and the mathematics of death. The enemy sniper was moving with purpose, clearly preparing for a devastating attack on her trapped comrades. Elena knew that within minutes her team would be systematically picked off one by one. The success of their entire mission, and the lives of 8 good soldiers, now rested on a single bullet traveling over 2 miles through hostile territory. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself for what would either be the shot of her lifetime or her final failure. When she opened them again, her world had narrowed to the small circle of her rifle scope, and the distant figure who held the fate of her team in his crosshairs. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders like a familiar coat. This was why they called her the Reaper. In moments like these, she became something more than human, a precise instrument of survival and justice. But even she had never faced odds quite like this. As Elena settled into her firing position, she couldn't know that this single moment would not only determine the outcome of their mission, but would forever change how military strategists thought about long-range combat. The shot she was about to attempt would enter the record books and alter the course of modern warfare itself. The enemy sniper raised his rifle, and Elena knew her window of opportunity was closing fast. Everything she had trained for, every hour spent on the range, every successful mission in her career, had led to this defining moment. The lives of her team, the success of their mission, and her own legacy as a soldier all hung in the balance. Elena took a deep breath, held it halfway, and placed her finger gently on the trigger. The world around her seemed to slow as she made the final microscopic adjustments to her aim. In the distance, completely unaware of the crosshairs now fixed upon him, the enemy sniper prepared to devastate her team with his own weapon of precision death. Elena's training kicked in as muscle memory took over. Years of preparation had led to this moment, and her body moved with practiced precision despite the chaos surrounding her position. She adjusted her scope one final time, accounting for the crosswind that had picked up across the industrial complex. The enemy sniper was now clearly visible through her optics. She could see him adjusting his own weapon, preparing to engage her trapped teammates below. Elena estimated she had perhaps 30 seconds before he would begin picking off her soldiers one by one. The pressure was immense, but she had learned long ago to channel stress into focus. "Reaper, we're taking heavy fire from the east building." Sergeant Rodriguez's voice came through her earpiece. "Thompson's been hit. We need that Overwatch eliminated now." Elena's jaw tightened. Thompson was barely 19, fresh out of training with a young wife back home. The knowledge that lives hung in the balance only sharpened her concentration. She had made similar shots before, but never under such extreme conditions and never at this distance. Through her scope, she watched the enemy sniper settle into his position. He was professional, methodical, clearly experienced. Elena could see the quality of his equipment and the deliberate way he moved. This wasn't some amateur rebel fighter. This was a trained professional, possibly even a former military sniper himself. The wind shifted slightly, and Elena made another micro-adjustment. At 3,200 meters, even the smallest environmental factor could send her bullet yards off target. She calculated the trajectory in her head, accounting for the 8-degree temperature difference between her position and the target area, the slight humidity change, and the barely perceptible wind patterns she had observed. Elena's breathing slowed to an almost meditative rhythm. In sniper school, they had taught her that the most important shot was always the next one. Past successes meant nothing if she missed when it mattered most. Today, it mattered more than it ever had before. The enemy sniper raised his rifle and began scanning for targets. Elena could see him through her scope, completely unaware that he was being watched from over 2 miles away. She tracked his movements, predicting where he would be in the next few seconds when her bullet would arrive after its long journey through the air. "This is the Reaper," Elena whispered into her microphone, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to attempt. Objective locked. Time seemed to slow as Elena made her final calculations. The mathematics of long-range shooting were complex, but she had internalized them through years of practice. Bullet velocity, gravitational drop, wind drift, even the Coriolis effect from the Earth's rotation, all of these factors had to be considered and compensated for in the brief moments before she pulled the trigger. Elena could feel her heartbeat in her temples, but her hands remained perfectly steady. This was the moment when all her training, all her natural ability, and all her experience would either converge in perfect harmony or fail catastrophically. There was no middle ground at this distance. The enemy sniper had found his first target. Elena could see him making final adjustments to his scope, preparing to take a shot that would likely kill one of her teammates. She was out of time. Every instinct told her to take the shot immediately, but her training demanded one final check of all variables. Wind speed, steady at 8 miles per hour from the southwest. Temperature dropping slightly as clouds moved across the sun. Humidity, increasing with the approaching weather front. Target movement minimal but predictable. All factors computed and compensated for in the space of heartbeats. Elena placed her finger on the trigger and applied the first stage of pressure. The rifle was perfectly steady, her breathing controlled, her mind clear of all distractions. In that moment, she became one with her weapon, a single instrument designed for one purpose: to place a bullet exactly where it needed to be. The enemy sniper's finger moved toward his own trigger. Elena knew that in seconds, one of her brothers in arms would die unless she acted. The shot had to be perfect. There would be no second chance, no opportunity to adjust and try again. This was the defining moment of her career as a soldier. With deliberate, controlled pressure, Elena began the final squeeze of her trigger. The world around her seemed to fade away until only the target remained in her consciousness. Time slowed to a crawl as the firing pin began its journey toward the primer of the cartridge that would send death flying across more than 2 miles of hostile territory. 3 days after the mission, Elena found herself sitting in a sterile military briefing room facing a panel of senior officers she had never seen before. Word of her 3,200-meter shot had traveled quickly through military channels, and suddenly everyone wanted to understand exactly how she had accomplished what many considered impossible. Colonel Morrison, her commanding officer, sat at the head of the table with a mixture of pride and bewilderment on his face. Beside him were representatives from military intelligence, advanced weapons development, and tactical doctrine. Elena had expected a routine debriefing, but this felt more like a scientific examination. Sergeant Martinez, began a woman in civilian clothes who Elena assumed was from the intelligence community. "We've analyzed the environmental data from your engagement. Wind conditions, temperature, humidity, even seismic readings from the area. According to our calculations, that shot should have been nearly impossible. Elena shifted uncomfortably in her chair. She had always been humble about her abilities, preferring to let her results speak for themselves. "Ma'am, I just did what I was trained to do. The conditions were challenging but not impossible." A man in an expensive suit leaned forward. Elena could see the insignia indicating he was from weapons development. "Sergeant, we've been testing similar shots at our proving grounds with the exact same rifle model you used. Our best shooters, using optimal conditions and multiple attempts, have achieved only a 60% hit rate at that distance. You did it in combat under stress with a single shot." The implications of what he was saying began to sink in. Elena had always known she was skilled, but she had assumed other snipers could achieve similar results given the right circumstances. The realization that her abilities might be genuinely exceptional was both humbling and slightly unsettling. Colonel Morrison pulled out a thick folder and placed it on the table. "Elena, your shot has created quite a stir at the Pentagon. They want to understand if your success can be replicated, taught to other snipers, or if it represents something unique that can't be systematized." Over the next several hours, Elena found herself recounting every detail of the engagement. The panel questioned her about her thought process, her calculations, even her emotional state during the shot. They were particularly interested in her training, background, and the methods she used to maintain such extraordinary accuracy under pressure. What surprised Elena most was learning about the broader impact of her action. The intelligence officer explained that the enemy sniper she had eliminated was a high-value target who had been responsible for numerous coalition casualties over the previous months. His death had effectively crippled the enemy's ability to conduct precise, long-range attacks in that region. The strategic impact extends beyond just removing one sniper, the intelligence officer continued. The psychological effect on enemy forces has been significant. They now know that nowhere within a 2-mile radius is safe from coalition precision fire. It's changed their entire tactical approach. Elena was then shown satellite footage of the engagement that she had never seen before. From space, the military had tracked her bullet's trajectory and impact with remarkable precision. The technology existed to measure and analyze her shot in ways she had never imagined possible. The weapons development representative pulled out several charts and diagrams. "Sergeant, based on your success, we're looking at modifying our long-range training programs. We want to incorporate your techniques and thought processes into the curriculum for advanced sniper schools." Elena felt a strange mixture of pride and pressure. The idea that her methods might be used to train future snipers was exciting, but she worried about whether her instinctive approach could be systematically taught to others. "There's something else," Colonel Morrison said, his tone becoming more serious. "Your shot has attracted attention at the highest levels of military command. They're considering you for assignment to a special operations unit that specializes in extreme long-range precision shooting." The room fell silent as Elena processed this information. A transfer to special operations would mean leaving her current unit, the soldiers who had become like family to her, but it would also mean access to the most advanced equipment and training available, and the opportunity to serve at the highest levels of military precision. "I need time to think about it, sir," Elena replied carefully. "My current team means a lot to me. We work well together." The intelligence officer nodded understandingly. "We appreciate your loyalty, Sergeant. But consider this. Your unique abilities could save many more lives if applied strategically in special operations. The missions would be more complex, but the impact could be exponentially greater." As the briefing concluded, Elena was given several documents to review and told she would have 2 weeks to make her decision. Walking out of the briefing room, she felt the weight of responsibility in a way she never had before. Her single shot had not only saved her teammates but had apparently opened doors to opportunities she had never considered. That evening, Elena sat in the barracks cleaning her rifle, the same weapon that had delivered the record-breaking shot. Sergeant Rodriguez approached and sat down beside her, clearly having heard rumors about the meeting. "So, Reaper," he said with a grin, "I hear you've got the big shots all excited. Word is they want to steal you away from us regular folks." Elena looked up from her rifle maintenance. "Nothing's decided yet. I'm not sure I want to leave the team." Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. "Elena, I've been a soldier for 15 years. I've seen a lot of good shooters, but what you did out there was something special. If they're offering you a chance to do more of what you're best at, maybe you should consider it." Elena realized that her 200-meter shot had changed more than just the immediate tactical situation. It had fundamentally altered the trajectory of her military career, and possibly her entire life. The question now was whether she was ready to embrace those changes and everything they would bring. The rifle kicked against Elena's shoulder with familiar force as the 338 Lapua Magnum round exploded from the barrel at over 3,000 feet per second. The sound of the gunshot echoed across the industrial complex. But Elena's attention was already fixed on tracking the bullet's path through her scope. For what felt like an eternity but lasted only seconds, Elena watched through her optics as the bullet traveled its arc across the battlefield. At this extreme distance, she could actually observe the projectile's journey, a tiny speck moving through the air toward its distant target. The enemy sniper had just placed his eye to his scope when Elena's bullet arrived. She watched through her own optics as the man suddenly jerked backward, his rifle clattering to the concrete surface of the rooftop. Even at this distance, Elena could see that her shot had found its mark with devastating precision. "Target eliminated," Elena reported into her microphone, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "Overwatch is down." The immediate effect was dramatic. Without the threat of the enemy sniper, Elena's pinned teammates were able to maneuver more freely. The psychological impact on the enemy forces was equally significant. Knowing that someone could reach out and touch them from over 2 miles away had a demoralizing effect that rippled through their ranks. Sergeant Rodriguez's voice crackled through the radio with obvious relief. "Outstanding work, Reaper. That shot just saved all our lives. Thompson's stable and we're moving to extract the package now." Elena allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, but her work wasn't finished. She continued scanning the area through her scope, looking for additional threats. The enemy forces were clearly rattled by the elimination of their Overwatch position, and their coordinated attack was beginning to fall apart. What Elena didn't realize at the time was that her shot had been observed and recorded by multiple sources. Military satellites had tracked the engagement, and the electronic warfare specialists monitoring the battle had captured detailed data about the unprecedented long-range elimination. As her team moved to complete their mission, Elena maintained her Overwatch position. She had learned never to abandon her post until the operation was complete. Through her scope, she watched as Rodriguez led the assault team toward the building where intelligence indicated the diplomat's daughter was being held. The distance of her successful shot was slowly sinking in. Elena had trained for shots at extreme range, but 3,200 meters in combat conditions was beyond what most snipers ever attempted. The combination of skill, calculation, and favorable conditions had aligned perfectly for those crucial seconds. Her radio suddenly came alive with chatter from command. "Reaper, this is Colonel Morrison. We've been monitoring your engagement. Can you confirm the distance of your last elimination?" Elena checked her rangefinder one more time before responding. "Confirmed distance 3,200 meters, sir. Single shot. Center mass hit on enemy sniper." There was a long pause before the colonel's voice returned, filled with something that sounded like awe. "Copy that, Reaper. That's a new record for this theater of operations. Outstanding marksmanship." But Elena's focus remained on the mission. Through her scope, she watched as her teammates breached the target building. Gunfire erupted from multiple windows as the enemy forces tried to mount a desperate defense. Elena adjusted her position to provide covering fire if needed. "Package located," Rodriguez reported. "Civilian is alive and conscious. We're moving to extraction point now." Elena breathed a sigh of relief. The young woman they had come to rescue was safe. But as she watched the extraction unfold, she noticed movement in another building approximately 1,800 meters away. Another enemy sniper was setting up position, clearly planning to engage her teammates as they moved toward the extraction point. Without hesitation, Elena swung her rifle toward the new threat. After the 3,200-meter shot, 1 in 800 meters felt almost routine. She quickly calculated the new firing solution and acquired her target. This sniper was in a more exposed position, making the shot significantly easier despite the stress of rapid target engagement. Elena's second shot of the engagement was equally precise. The enemy sniper dropped immediately, his weapon tumbling from the window where he had been positioning himself. Elena's teammates were now free to move to extraction without fear of long-range interdiction. "Second sniper eliminated," Elena reported. "Extraction route is clear." As she watched her team successfully complete their mission and move toward safety, Elena began to understand that something significant had just occurred. The 3,200-meter shot wasn't just a personal achievement. It represented a new milestone in long-range precision shooting. The implications would extend far beyond this single engagement. Military analysts would later study Elena's shot for months, examining every variable and factor that had contributed to its success. The data would influence training programs, equipment development, and tactical doctrine for years to come. But in the moment, Elena was focused only on ensuring her teammates made it home safely. The diplomat's daughter was successfully extracted, and Elena's entire team survived the engagement without serious casualties. Thompson's wound proved to be minor, and he would make a full recovery. As Elena finally broke down her rifle and prepared to move to the extraction point herself, she couldn't know that her actions that day would reshape military thinking about the possibilities of long-range precision shooting. 5 years after that defining shot in the industrial complex, Elena Martinez had become something of a legend within the special operations community. Her successful completion of 47 long-range precision missions had established new standards for what individual soldiers could accomplish in modern warfare. Elena now held the rank of Master Sergeant and served as the primary instructor at the military's most advanced sniper school. Students came from allied nations around the world to learn the techniques and mental frameworks that had made her successes possible. The curriculum she had helped develop was being adopted by special forces units across multiple countries. The impact of her innovations extended far beyond individual marksmanship. Military strategists had fundamentally altered their approach to battlefield planning, incorporating the possibility of precision elimination at previously impossible ranges. The psychological deterrent effect alone had changed how enemy forces positioned themselves and conducted operations. The Reaper Doctrine, as it had come to be known in military circles, emphasized the strategic multiplication effect of individual excellence. Elena's success had proven that a single soldier, with exceptional training and equipment, could have impact proportional to much larger conventional units. Elena's personal rifle, the same weapon that had delivered the 3,200-meter shot, was now on display at the military museum, alongside other legendary weapons of warfare. But for Elena, the most meaningful recognition came from the letters she received from soldiers whose lives had been saved by the techniques she had developed and taught. Her former teammate, Sergeant Rodriguez, had completed officer training and now commanded his own unit. During a recent visit, he reminded Elena of how her shot had not only saved their mission, but had inspired an entire generation of soldiers to push beyond what they thought possible. "You know, Elena," Rodriguez had said, "that shot you made didn't just eliminate one enemy sniper. It eliminated the idea that there were limits to what we could accomplish with precision and determination." Elena's influence had also extended into civilian applications. The mathematical and technological innovations developed for extreme-range shooting had found applications in fields ranging from space exploration to medical procedures requiring microscopic precision. Universities now studied her shot as an example of how human capability could be enhanced through optimal preparation and execution. The young recruit Elena was currently training reminded her of herself years earlier, talented, dedicated, but not yet aware of what might be possible with proper development. During today's lesson, the recruit had successfully engaged targets at 2,400 meters, a distance that would have been considered exceptional just a few years earlier. "Master Sergeant," the recruit asked, "do you think I'll ever be able to make shots like your famous one?" Elena considered the question carefully. That shot was the result of years of preparation meeting a moment of desperate necessity. What matters isn't whether you can duplicate any specific shot, but whether you're prepared to exceed your own limitations when lives depend on your performance. Elena had learned that true mastery wasn't about achieving a particular milestone, but about the continuous pursuit of excellence that prepared you for whatever challenges might arise. The 3,200-meter shot had been important not because of the distance, but because it represented the moment when preparation, opportunity, and necessity had aligned perfectly. Looking back, Elena realized that her career had been defined not by a single moment of success, but by her response to that success. Rather than becoming satisfied with her achievement, she had used it as a foundation for continued growth and service to others. The shot had opened doors, but her dedication to improvement had determined where those doors led. Today, Elena was preparing for her final operational mission before transitioning to full-time instruction and doctrine development. Intelligence had identified a terrorist leader who was planning an attack on a civilian target. The elimination would require a shot of approximately 4,200 meters, the longest distance Elena had ever attempted in combat conditions. As she prepared her equipment and reviewed the mission parameters, Elena felt the same focused calm that had carried her through dozens of previous operations. The distance was extreme, the stakes were high, and the margin for error was virtually non-existent. But Elena had learned to thrive in exactly these conditions. Her spotter, a young sergeant who had trained under Elena's program, was clearly nervous about the unprecedented range they were attempting. Elena remembered her own anxiety before attempting shots at distances that had seemed impossible at the time. "Master Sergeant," the spotter said, "this distance is beyond anything anyone has attempted before. Are you sure it's possible?" Elena checked her rifle one final time and settled into her firing position. Through her scope, she could see the target area more than 2.5 miles away. The wind conditions were challenging but manageable, and her calculations indicated the shot was within the realm of possibility. "Every impossible shot is just a possible shot that nobody has made yet," Elena replied, her voice carrying the quiet confidence that had become her trademark. "Today we find out what's possible." As Elena began her final preparations for the shot that would cap her operational career, she thought about all the soldiers she had trained, all the lives that had been saved through improved techniques, and all the barriers that had been broken through the simple act of refusing to accept limitations. The 200-meter shot had changed everything, but it had been just the beginning. Elena Martinez, the Reaper, had shown that individual excellence could reshape the entire landscape of modern warfare. As she placed her finger on the trigger for what would be her final combat shot, she knew that her true legacy lay not in any single achievement, but in the countless others who would continue. Pushing boundaries long after, she had moved on to new challenges. The shot that had altered the course of everything was about to be followed by one that would provide the perfect conclusion to an extraordinary career built on the principle that impossible was just another word for untested.